Hello and welcome to this video. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy. Today we will be looking at the Premier League predictions for this weekend. The international break is finally over and we can go back to Premier League football just until I think it's November the next one. So we've got a little bit of a break from international football and then we have the next one. But we have some good games coming up and I'm really looking forward to this weekend's fixtures. You'll notice that I have a different background and I don't have the the background disappeared anymore. That's because I've moved out. I've moved house, and this is my new house, and I live. Hopefully, I'll be living here for a while. My girlfriend's going to university in a couple of weeks, and that is why I have moved. So hopefully, with that move, I'll be able to stream more and put up more videos and things like that. So that's something to really look forward to. So the first game we will be looking at is Liverpool versus Newcastle United. So Liverpool have had a fantastic start to the season. They have won the Super Cup and they've won all 4 of their Premier League games so far and lost on penalties to Manchester City in the Community Shield. Newcastle have had a strange start. They lost 1-0 to Arsenal. Didn't look like they had many chances in that game, to be fair. They then played Norwich and lost 3-1, and I was worried for them. Then they got a great result at Tottenham, beating them 1-0. Joe Linton scoring the only goal of the game. And then they had a defeat on penalties to Leicester City in the EFL Cup, which is now the Carabao Cup. And then they drew 1-1 last weekend with Watford, who have sacked their manager, Javi Gracia. So Will Hughes opened the score in the second minute. Just before half-time, Fabian Schär made it 1-1, and that is how it remained. I can't see anything other than a Liverpool win here. Liverpool are flying. Newcastle, they had that strange result against Tottenham, but I just can't see anything other than a Liverpool win. I think Liverpool are absolutely flying, and I think that they will definitely win this game. But obviously, they will have a lot of players, far more players, coming back from international break than Newcastle. So that is something to think about. So I'm going to go for a 3-0 win to Liverpool. I think Liverpool will be absolutely fine against Newcastle. Then we come to the 3 o'clock games, the first of which is Brighton versus Burnley. So Brighton are in 16th place and Burnley are in 12th place. Both have 4 points, but Brighton have scored less and conceded more. So let's go to the fixtures so far. Brighton, they have started their campaign with a 3-0 win over Watford. They then played West Ham and they drew 1-1 there. Trossard scoring a fantastic finish. Then they played Southampton. They did have Andone sent off in this one and 2 goals from Gennaro and Redmond made it 2-0 to Southampton. They then played Bristol Rovers in the Carabao Cup and won 2-1. And then last weekend lost 4-0 to Manchester City, as you would expect. Burnley started off with a 3-0 win over Southampton, then had a 2-1 defeat to Arsenal, a 1-1 draw with Wolves, Ashley Barnes scoring a great goal in that game, then a shock 3-1 defeat to Sunderland at home in the Carabao Cup, and then last Saturday they played Liverpool, and they looked a bit all over the place. Nick Pope made a terrible error to open the scoring, Ben Mee made a terrible error to make it 2-0. And Liverpool could have had more, to be fair, but it was a disappointing performance from Burnley. This makes it quite hard to predict. But the fact that Brighton are at home, and Brighton have looked pretty good under Graham Potter, despite that 4-0 defeat to Manchester City, I'm going to go for a win for Brighton. I'm going to go 2-1 to Brighton. The next game is Manchester United versus Leicester. Manchester United have had an iffy start, in my opinion. They started off greatly with a 4-0 win over Chelsea, and I thought this United team's going to be all right this season. And then they drew with Wolves, and I thought that's not a bad point. Probably should have won it with the whole Pogba penalty situation. And then they played Palace, and I thought, Palace aren't going to cause much of a threat. It's going to be a comfortable win for Manchester United. How wrong I was. It was a 2-1 win to Crystal Palace. Saturday morning last week, they played Southampton, they opened the scoring for a lovely goal from Daniel James, his third goal of the season. He's started the season on fire for Manchester United. Vestergaard equalised. They had Danzo sent off in the 73rd minute, and Manchester United, despite Southampton being down to 10 men, did not find a winning goal. So they're struggling at the minute. They've not started how they would have wanted to. I think that this one could go either way. Leicester could certainly go there and get a victory. Manchester United could go there and win, as you would expect them being at home at Old Trafford. It could also be a draw, and that's the one I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. But this one could go either way. That's another 3 o'clock game. I'm really looking forward to the result of that one. Next, we have Sheffield United versus Southampton. Sheffield United are currently in 10th place with 5 points so far. Southampton are in 13th place with 4 points from their 4 games so far. Southampton started with a 3-0 defeat to Burnley, and then a 2-1 defeat to Liverpool before a victory over Brighton 2-0, with Brighton being down for 10 men for the majority of that game. A 1-0 win in the Carabao Cup against Fulham, and then a 1-1 draw against Manchester United. I think Sheffield United, with their 5 points so far, will be absolutely delighted with their start. They opened their account with a 1-1 draw at Bournemouth, Buddy Sharp scoring a late goal there. Next they had Crystal Palace, and this one ended up 1-0. Lundstrom scoring the goal there to make it 1-0. They then played Leicester City, and that was a 2-1 defeat. Harvey Barnes scoring an absolute screamer in that one to win all 3 points for the Foxes. In the Carabao Cup, they beat Blackburn 2-1. And last week, they came back from 2 goals down to get a point at Stamford Bridge. Zuma scoring a late own goal after Robinson had got one back in the 46th minute. Tammy Abraham scoring the opening 2 goals there. So really, I don't think that any Sheffield United fan will be disappointed with their results so far. You know, they've done fine, and I want Sheffield United to stay up. I want Norwich to stay up, and I'd like Aston Villa to stay up. I like all the teams to stay up. My pick was for Sheffield United to finish bottom, but they're doing much better than I was expecting. I'm going to go for a Southampton win. I'm going to go for 1-0 to Southampton. Southampton started off a bit iffy, but the last 2 results against Brighton and against Manchester United have given me a little bit of hope. So I'm going to go 1-0 to Southampton in that one. Next, we have Tottenham versus Crystal Palace. Tottenham have had a very strange start to the season. They were 1-0 down for a long time against Aston Villa before winning the game 3-1. Harry Kane scoring twice in that one, and Ndombele scoring the equaliser. They then played Manchester City, and they got a good point against Manchester City. Any points you pick up at the Etihad are very valuable and good for good points. No matter how many you pick up, if you pick up 1, if you pick up 3, you've done very well, because Manchester City are one of the best sides in the world. It's the same with Liverpool. They got a point there, but they played awfully. They could have lost 5-2. They then played Newcastle, and they lost 1-0. And then they played Arsenal, and they drew 2-2 after being 2-0 up. So it's been a very mixed bag for Tottenham. I think they'll be very disappointed with their start so far. Crystal Palace opened their account with a 0-0 draw with Everton. They went to Sheffield United and lost 1-0, and I was expecting them to struggle then. I thought Crystal Palace, they're going to struggle. Then they went to Manchester United and won 2-1. Van Aanholt scoring a late winner there. Then they had Colchester at home, and they lost in the Carabao Cup. Once again, it's hard to know how much you can read into those results. Then they played Aston Villa at the last weekend, and they won 1-0. So because of those results, Crystal Palace find themselves in the top 4. They are 4th with 7 points, 2 wins, 1 defeat, and 1 draw. So after a mixed bag at the start, they're doing all right now. Tottenham find themselves in 9th place with 5 points, 2 draws, 1 win and 1 defeat. So not the best start for Tottenham. However, they are at home. I think this international break will be good to give a chance to for the players to have a little break from Tottenham, which they probably need, because they've spent a hell of a lot of time there with the whole Champions League at the end of the season and pre-season and stuff like that. So maybe that's what's causing it. Christian Eriksen He's been in and out the side because of his transfer. That's still done. He's not moving. And I think that is really, really, really good news for Tottenham, because I think they can now kick on with the season, because that was something that he is probably their best player, and there was no sort of ending to the situation. So now that's ended, they should be able to kick on and produce some results. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Tottenham because of that. The transfer window's ended. They've had a little bit of a break, and they can have a rethink of things out. So I think that Tottenham will win this one 2-1. Wolves and Chelsea is the next game, and this is the final 3 o'clock kickoff. Chelsea have struggled, in my opinion, so far this season. They drew 2 of their games, they've won 1 of their games, and they've lost 1. Their opening game was a 4-0 defeat to Manchester United. Then had the Super Cup, where they lost on penalties after a 2-2 draw. Chelsea played Leicester next and drew 1 apiece, and in my opinion, Leicester probably should have won that game. Norwich, and then that was a 3-2 win to Chelsea. Tammy Abraham, I think, scored a couple in that game. And then a 2-2 draw with Sheffield United. It's not been the best start. Wolves, they've had a lot of interruptions through the Europa League, but now that is going to be over for a little bit, and they can, well, it's over for a week or so, and then they have the qualification through the group stages. So the results so far, they drew 0-0 with Leicester. A late Willy Bolly goal was ruled out. I think it was Willy Bolly. Well, certainly he was involved in it. But his late goal was disallowed through that one for Wolves. They played Manchester United and drew 1-1. Then they had Burnley and drew 1-1. Then they played Everton and lost 3-2. So far, Wolves are in 17th place with 3 points. And are yet to win. The only other team yet to win are Watford. Chelsea are in 11th place with 5 points. So this one could go either way. The last time these two met, it finished 2-1 when they last met at Molineux to Wolves. And I think Wolves will overturn them again. They've had a lot of interruptions through the Europa League. This week they've had the international break, but they haven't had to play, Thursday, Sunday. And I think that will help. So I'm going to go for a Wolves win. I'm going to go 2-1 to Wolves, and Wolves to get their first win of the season. The 5:30 game is Norwich versus Manchester City. Norwich have had, I think they'd have accepted their start so far. If they'd had 1 win from their opening few games, I think they'd be happy. They started off with the Liverpool game, and that was a 4-1 defeat. Disappointed then. Then they had the Newcastle game. They won that 3-1, a Pukki hat-trick. Chelsea, they played and lost 3-2. They then lost 1-0 in the Carabao Cup to Crawley. I think they made 11 changes for that one. And then the 2-0 defeat to West Ham last time out. Looking at those results, they've had 2 tough games in Liverpool and Chelsea. West Ham away is a tough place to go to, unless you're Manchester City and you seem to put like 4 or 5 past them every time you go there. So I think that they'll be all right with their 3 points, but I feel like they need to pick up some more wins soon, if they want to stay up, because they've lost a hell of a lot of games so far. They've only picked up 1 win and they've lost all their other games, which is only 3, but they're going to lose against Manchester City, aren't they? Manchester City's start so far, they have yet to taste defeat in any competition. Started off with Liverpool and won that on penalties after a 1-1 draw in the Community Shield. They then played West Ham and won 5-0. Then they played Tottenham and drew 2-2. I think Pep will be disappointed they didn't see that game out. Bournemouth 1, Manchester City 3. Aguero got a couple of goals in that one. And then Manchester City 4, Brighton 0. The last time these two met, it was 0-0. But when they met in 2013, Manchester City put 7 past Norwich. So, standings-wise, Manchester City are second with 10 points. 2 points behind Liverpool. Norwich are 1 from bottom, and they are on 3 points. So, the reason that I'm a bit concerned for Norwich is they have already conceded 10 goals. They conceded 4 to Liverpool. They conceded 3 to Chelsea. So I'm concerned they're going to concede a lot here. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win to Manchester City. I think Manchester City will be comfortable. We'll have plenty to beat Norwich City. So I'm going to go 3-0 to Manchester City. Sunday's games. The first is Bournemouth versus Everton. Bournemouth have had a interesting start. They drew with Sheffield United 1-1. Went to Villa Park and won 2-1. Lost to Manchester City 3-1 and lost to Leicester 3-1. And in between that, they won on penalties against Forest Green in the Carabao Cup. Everton, they have done all right in my opinion. They drew 0-0 with Crystal Palace. They won against Watford. They lost 2-0 to Aston Villa. They beat Lincoln 4-2 in the Carabao Cup, and then they won against Wolves 3-2. So they've won both of their games so far in the home games, and that is quite concerning. That the fact that they they've struggled away from home. They lost to Villa, who are in 18th place. They drew with Crystal Palace rather. That was 0-0. Didn't look like scoring in that game, but they are on 7 points, which is the same as Arsenal and Palace. So I think that they'll be pleased with their start overall, having 7 points from the opening 4 games. It's just that Manchester United, Tottenham and Chelsea haven't done too well, so that means that's why they're so high. If they'd have started off and done better, then they would be much further down the league. But overall, 6th place, I think they take that so far. But I fear for them away from home. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go 1-1 this one. I'm going to go Bournemouth 1, Everton 1. And I just feel that this one could go anyway, but I'm going to go for a draw there. Next, we have Watford versus Arsenal. So this one finished, was it 1-0 to Arsenal? Yeah, 1-0 to Arsenal last time they met. And it was Aubameyang closed down Foster. And that was the only goal of the game. I remember streaming it. It was a very weird goal. So Arsenal have started the season similarly to Everton. 2 wins, 1 draw and 1 defeat. They started off with a 1-0 win over Newcastle, a 2-1 win over Burnley, and everyone was getting really excited about the Arsenal. Well, Arsenal fans were getting really excited about the Arsenal team. Brought back down to earth with a 3-1 defeat to Liverpool, and then a 2-2 draw with Tottenham. I think they'll be pleased that they come back from 2-0 down to get a point, but I thought that some of the decisions made, that penalty decision by Xhaka was awful. Leno should have done a lot better with the first goal as well. So I think I'd be disappointed they were 2-0 down in the first place. They probably should have won that game, given the chances and things like that. Watford have had a terrible start to the season. Lost 3-0 to Brighton, lost 1-0 to Everton, lost 3-1 to West Ham. They got a victory in the Carabao Cup 3-0 over Coventry, playing League One. Then they had a draw with Newcastle, so they've only picked up 1 point so far from the opening 4 games. Arsenal, I think, will be alright in this one. They have, in the past, struggled away from home. In the last couple of seasons, they have struggled away from home, and that was something that was aimed at Emery and Arsene Wenger last year and the year before that. But I think that they'll be alright in this one because Watford are poor. But Watford have a new manager. Quique Sanchez Flores is the new manager replacing Javi Gracia. So that could give them a new manager bounce, as we've seen so many times. I remember happening last season with Ralph Hasenhüttl. I think they beat Arsenal actually. So that is something to keep an eye on. But I just think that Arsenal will have enough to beat Watford despite the new manager in. So I'm going to go 2-0 to Arsenal. Next and final game is the Monday Night Football, Aston Villa versus West Ham. Aston Villa have had a start where they've struggled in some games and then looked really good in others. Lost Tottenham 3-1, but they looked good in that one. I thought Mings played really, really well. McGinn looked really good. They lost 3-1 in the end. They really struggled against Bournemouth. They lost that one 2-1. And I think Bournemouth should have had a penalty, so it could have been more. Then they played Everton. They didn't have many chances, but nor did Everton. It was quite a quiet game in the chances front, but Aston Villa won that one 2-0. They went to Crewe and won 6-1 in the Carabao Cup, and then they played Crystal Palace at the weekend and lost 1-0. Well, not the weekend, but the last time out. Despite having a down to 10 men in the 54th minute, they had a goal ruled out through Jack Grealish diving. That was a very, very interesting moment. West Ham have picked up since that 5-0 defeat to City on the opening day. A 1-1 draw at Brighton, a 3-1 win over Watford, a 2-0 win over Newport in the Carabao Cup, and a 2-0 win over Norwich. So they are looking better It's Claret and Blue versus Claret and Blue. This one could go either. I say that about pretty much every game, but this one could go either way. But I'm going to go with West Ham for this one. I'm going to go 2-1 to West Ham just because they've probably got the better players, and they've got some decent results. Brighton draw was an okay result, a good result against Watford, and then a 2-0 win over Norwich. So they've picked up 7 points from the last 9, which is good form. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with 2-1 to West Ham. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Put your predictions in the comments. I'd love to hear all of them. Be interested to hear what you think. But thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to watch my live stream. I should be live hopefully this weekend if the broadband's fitted. If not, it'll be next week for the Champions League games. And if not then, it'll probably be Europa League. And if not then, it'll be the weekend after. But I plan to do some live streams. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. My name is Mike, and I will see you soon.